Successive governments have failed to deliver vital infrastructure. They have also failed to source other potential solutions, such as encouraging private capital to meet the enormous demands of growth. Urban fringe areas in so many of our major cities are suffering from governments who cannot or will not fund the infrastructure so sorely needed, but won't allow the private sector to provide an alternative solution. This issue of Labor's misguided attempts to plan for the future of Sydney by limiting growth affects almost all of the Mitchell electorate in one way or another. Central planning has produced policies that are denying young people and young families the opportunity to get ahead. By rationing land, they have caused land prices to skyrocket. By imposing high fees and regulatory imposts, they have caused long delays and extortionate costs. They've increased densities in suburbs against the wishes of existing residents and buyers. And dilapidated infrastructure, which was never designed for these sorts of densities, has become choked and overloaded. In short, it's not urban consolidation they have created, but urban congestion. In and near my electorate, which covers some 12,900 hectares and is all within 1 hour's drive of the Sydney CBD, there are thousands of hectares where minimum lot sizes remain between 2 and 40 hectares, as a result of past archaic policies of urban consolidation. This is land which would be highly sought after for housing, if not for the implementation of absurd policies that see minimum lot sizes as high as 100 acres within an hour's drive of the Sydney city, and only minutes away from other major town centres such as Castle Hill and the new Rouse Hill. Currently, that land is sitting there doing nothing. It's too expensive for farming, but it is much cheaper than the land right next door that is being sold for housing. It is an incredible waste of resources and a major contributor to Sydney's unaffordable housing. Affordable housing is part of the great Australian dream, and if states continue to fail so badly in the provision of this basic function, there must be a role for the federal government. We've already seen the erosion of housing affordability that the first 3 decades of these types of policies have produced. Measures should be taken to lift the restrictions against housing on the urban fringe and slash the exorbitant levies and charges that are currently applied. Young Australians deserve better, and I will work in this place to ensure that Mitchell can be an affordable place to live for young Australians. Mr. Speaker, I have been fortunate to learn about strong advocacy. I joined the Liberal Party in 1995 when political correctness was at its height after 12 years of Labor rule. I then went to work in the political sphere, gaining experience and insight into how to produce real outcomes from government. I want to acknowledge and thank those who gave me my political start: the Honourable Ross Cameron, Senator Helen Coonan, the Honourable David Clark and Ray Williams. I also thank those that have assisted me along the way: Tony Abbott, Bronwyn Bishop, Brenda Nelson, Malcolm Turnbull and Senator Connie Fierravanti-Wells. Their support, friendship and service have given me the experience, inspiration and determination to be an effective representative. I owe a huge debt to the Mitchell FEC and its branches, to the New South Wales State Executive and State Council, and to Nick Campbell, Vice President of the New South Wales Division. I also want to thank my campaign managers and friends, Andrew Jeffries, Matthew Connor, Mark Lewis and Dominic Perrottet. I also thank the New South Wales Young Liberal Movement, the New South Wales Young Liberal Executive and the Australian Liberal Students' Federation. The Liberal Party is the party of Menzies, the party of John Howard, of James Roos, the party of the individual, the small business owner and the hard-working mums and dads of Mitchell. It is the party of the defining spirit of this country that proclaims that if you have a go, then you will get a fair go in return. I am proud to represent such a great political party in this place. But, Mr. Speaker, my election was not without some small degree of controversy. Some Liberals think that the election of such a progressive younger person to this place is the thin end of the wedge. For example, one elderly Liberal matriarch declared, and I quote, that the election of Alex Hawke to the federal parliament would be the death of conservatism in the Liberal Party. I want to reassure honourable members who may be anxious about this matter that I bear no hostility to conservatism. My brand of liberalism is more interested in what we support than what we oppose. I want not just to resist those things that are good, that are harmful, but to support those things that are good. I derive no satisfaction in opposing the growth of state-sponsored welfare if I cannot fan the spark of family, enterprise, self-reliance and human dignity. I am more interested in arguing the merits of the high standards we have inherited than obsessing about the failings of those who fall short, recognising as I do that all of us are but dust and clay. I'm a big believer in the ideas of grace, forgiveness, redemption and a second chance, Christian values that have seasoned secular culture in a way that makes it more humane and our world more inhabitable. We Liberals must accept the responsibility to make our political values relevant and persuasive. We must reach out to each successive generation. I'm for sustainable environmentalism and practical reconciliation. I'm for the US alliance. I'm for the State of Israel. I'm committed to the war on terror. I want to see Australia fulfil its proper role as a regional leader, especially in supporting our neighbours and friends in Papua New Guinea, East Timor and the Pacific. I'm a supporter of democracy as a global language, of trade, not aid, of the rule of law and the power of the individual. Australia, thanks to the Howard era, is still a free and open society, a naturally egalitarian place not hidebound by rank or birth, a place where merit, work, character and tenacity are still the most important factors in determining a person's success. There is more to be done, and more that we can do for those who don't yet enjoy the benefits of modern Australia. This can and should be done through strong communities, by taking responsibility for one another and not by outsourcing the role to government. 220 years from our founding as a nation, life is much more complex than it once was. Understandably, government plays a broader role than it once did. But over-reliance on the government is holding our nation back and eroding our enterprise, eroding our instinct to take responsibility for ourselves and for each other, and most of all, eroding voluntary association. My commitment to the people of Mitchell is to stand up in this place for our community, for its great spirit of enterprise, its individualism, its spirit of voluntarism, and for its aspirational goals. It has become fashionable to dispense with aspirational goals, especially amongst the modern class of urbane professional politicians. There is a species of leader whose achievement is to offend no one, who stands for nothing. He or she has the great advantage of never being guilty of failure because they never advocated a standard they might fail. I prefer the approach of Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." Mr. Speaker, it is in that great spirit and in this great arena that I humbly devote myself to serving the people of Mitchell and the people of Australia for as long as I am fortunate enough to remain a member of this place.